We have an absolutely wild Kirby Dach update as a report has recently surfaced that during mid-season meetings with the coaching staff and Habs management, they did not very much like the response of Kirby Dach after what they told him. We have to dive into this report, what it means going forward, and some Kirby Dach statistics that actually make this a little more interesting than we thought. But we also have to talk about Jake Evans and another new team he has been linked to. And finally, we got to talk about our boy Ivan, who is absolutely putting on a show, a 5-game point streak right now with one of the filthier assists you will ever see in the KHL. We got a bunch of stuff coming up on this episode of Habs Digest, so stick around for it. Jesse, let's first talk about our boy Demidov because it's so fun to talk about him. Just Grant McCagg, by the way, tweeted this out. He's one player in the entire top 50 of the KHL scoring is averaging fewer than 15 minutes per game. Demidov logs only 13 and a half minutes a night, yet is 11th in league scoring. He's 1 point, Jesse, out of being 10th place, really tied for 9th. I mean, right now, he is tearing things up. Again, this 5-game point streak, another filthy assist against, not an amazing team there. I think it's Akbar's, I'm not sure, but it's still unbelievable stuff. Look, we talk about him every day, but it somehow gets better every single day, and I can't help but imagine a Hab on the other end of an assist like this.
Yeah, Ivan Demidov is ready for the NHL. He's basically toying with the opposition at this point. How sick is that first toe drag, that first move on the defender? But then just like how we know from Ivan Demidov, he's then taking it right to the net after. Now, the whole defense is basically focused on him at this point, and they're just on every whim as he's kind of going side to side with the Deeks. Like, this goal is all Demidov. And as we're seeing from that quote from Grant McCagg, it's like, this guy is just overperforming so well given his time on ice. Like, if he's 11th right now, considering how little ice time, you have to feel, Josh, like he would be near the top, if not at the top, if he was getting comparable ice time to his peers here. We're talking about being close to leading the KHL in points as a rookie if he was getting the ice time that he deserves. Of course, he's going to get his flowers in Montreal. We won't we won't beat a dead dog over that, but at the same time, we're happy that he's coming here and he is showing that he is ready.
Absolutely. I mean, look, no disrespect to Josh Levo, who's hurt right now, but holy crap, is he ever having a good season? 40 goals in 47 games, NHL legend. But yeah, I mean, you look at Demidov, he's the only one in this top 11 that doesn't have a single power play goal. Like everyone else has at least one. And just look at the list of players above him. Like the youngest guy above him is Daniil Almurzen, who is 22 years old with 47 points in 52 games. It's unbelievable what he's doing. So we just got to shout out the credit where credit is due. Crazy stuff from Demidov. Leave some love for Demigod down below. But before we get into Jake Evans, just a reminder to hit subscribe to the channel. Just check if you have. Have you? It's completely free. We got daily Habs news. You guys like staying up to date on the Habs, right? Well, if you do, this is the spot to be. We're talking now about Jake Evans. And Dave Pagnotta, the fourth period, or Pagnotta, I should say. I think it's Pagnotta. Anyway, their website, they have a bunch of these trade trackers and teams and players that have been linked different places. And the recent thing on Jake Evans, you look at the list of teams reportedly linked. We've talked about a few of these, but there's one specific team that I think is interesting, Jesse, and that is Winnipeg. Now, we're talking here about Jake Evans, of course, having a career year. He's a very attractive cap hit. He'll be due for a hefty raise if he keeps up his production. Some sources online are saying we're talking 4 years, between 3.5 and 4.5. Don't know where it's going to end up being. But a team like Winnipeg, especially a team that's so good right now, Jesse, they could bolster their bottom six. Like Rasmus Kupari and Gustafsson, they're holding it down. However, Jake Evans, you got to imagine, especially as you go towards the playoffs, would be a good fit for them. Montreal has some trade history with Winnipeg, of course. So I think, again, like we have a lot of teams that Montreal has good trade history with, has, a good relationship with, and those are the teams we tend to look at more when we're looking at shipping out our current UFAs. And if we can't come to an extension agreement with Evans, which, some reports say we will, some reports say we won't, I actually think Winnipeg is not only a good fit for, what they'd be willing to pay Montreal for a guy like him, but also lineup-wise, and we have a good relationship. I think this is one of the more interesting cases here.
Yeah, probably the only thing that's awkward in this whole situation is the Mark Scheifele thing.
I agree.
But other than that, he is a perfect fit for the Winnipeg Jets in a lot of ways. I was looking at the Winnipeg Jets as being a team that could have made some noise in the playoffs last year. Unfortunately, they had that really strong end to the regular season. In the playoffs, they weren't quite able to make it happen. So you got to believe that they're interested in a player like Jake Evans, not only for what he can provide in the playoffs, but really, obviously, I just said that a lot, playoffs. But anyway, like what he can really provide over Rasmus Kupari here. Like we're talking about only 24 years old, but we're talking about only 7 points this season. I mean, not much better for David Gustafsson there, the 5 points. And that's true. That's true. It'll come a little bit more, the 5 points in the 24 games there for Gustafsson. Like Jake Evans, though, if you're looking to bolster your team, let alone the speed from Kupari, that's a huge improvement in terms of not only obviously the offense, but that defensive game, the penalty kill, the defense. The list just kind of goes on. The more that I talk about it, the more that I still want to keep Jake Evans over Montreal.
Yeah, I agree too. And again, that Scheifele thing is really weird. Like, I can't imagine Jake Evans would want to go there. I mean, look, I'm sure that beef is maybe squashed. I mean, look, Scheifele rightfully gets booed every time he goes to Montreal, and I don't know. But still, it's a very interesting destination and a potentially attractive destination. Again, Winnipeg could look for a guy like that. Let us know what you think about that rumor. Put the Scheifele stuff aside if you can, because I imagine the GMs are probably not thinking too much. No, you never know. I bet you Kent might have that on his mind. Like, I don't want to send our boy Jake there, so we'll have to see. But Jesse, we got to dive into this Kirby Dach stuff. This is crazy. So I will link this down below, the video. It happens about 15 minutes in. So I recommend, first of all, that you guys go watch. It's in French, unfortunately. I've translated the quote to English, but go watch it yourself. Get the full context so you're not just taking our word for it. Again, I will link the episode down below. It comes from the Stanley 25 podcast, Maxime Truman. I'll show you the quote from the video. Now, the ... represents a break where there's like not much useful information in between. So I've kind of brought it all into one quote here. He said, this is again in French, I've translated, I believe it's a correct translation. Recently, the Habs coaching staff and management had their mid-season discussion. There were certain meetings with certain players that were not satisfying. When you hold this kind of meeting, you watch the other person's reaction, and from what I've been told, Kirby Dach's reaction was not great. He's not untouchable. He's not part of the core of this team. And this is interesting. Now, look, again, Maxime said that his source, he's like, it's a reliable source, but, we can only take people for what they say. This is very interesting to me, Jesse, because Kirby Dach, of course, has not been having an amazing season. They said on the show as well, Habs management came to him and apparently said, look, we see you as a high-end center, but you got to show us more than 20-ish points in 56 games. First of all, before we dive into maybe more not advanced stats, but a deeper breakdown of his recent performance, Jesse, what was your reaction when you heard this quote come out today? Because honestly, I was a bit stunned. I did not expect to hear this today.
A little bit stunned, but it kind of makes sense in the context, given that the body language from Kirby Dach this year has not been the best. We've seen that frustration at some points, and that's even kind of led to some penalties, which I think is kind of a recurring issue. You have to feel like that was part of the conversation with Kirby Dach and with management. How do we get more points, but how do we stop taking those needless stick penalties there? With Dach, it's going to be really up to him to determine. We're going to get this in more in a second, but there's been the good signs and there's been the bad signs. And it's really going to he's going to determine where this is going to go, but this is going to need to get figured out fairly soon. Like for me, at an important position with the 2C, this is just expedited by the fact that Demidov is coming. Mm-hmm. This is what kind of speeds up this whole process. Kirby Dach might have a little bit of a longer runway. If that's not the case, they're going to want to take care of that player. They're going to have a centerman that's going to be able to bring out the best of that player early on. I mean, the benefits from Dach, if he could pan out, he would be cost effective, being still kind of a young guy. He's big. He's got the skill. He's got that composure in the offensive zone. He has so many things that we're looking for. Even if he doesn't turn out to be that center for this team, we just want him to be effective and to really get those points at this point in time. But, it's going to be really up to him to determine here, and hopefully he can kind of take some ownership. But I mean, it is disturbing to hear if this is true.
Again, if this is true, we can only take for word of mouth what they say. They believe in their source, but we don't have those inside sources. So again, make of this what you will, but it is a bit surprising. There was some other stuff discussed in this podcast that might be coming up in a future video. But again, you look at this, Jesse, 22-23, when he was playing with Suzuki and Caufield, we actually saw some teasers of that in recent games. I think their last game before the break, we saw it a little bit. But 14 goals, 24 assists in 58 games that season, 56 games so far. He's at just over half of that production. But Kirby Dach, of course, coming off a major knee injury last year. In his first 34 games this year, he played at a 21-point pace, right? 9 points in 34 games. Not very good at all. Straight up, not good at all, right? He really was not awesome in that first bit. His shooting percentage was down. It was face-off percentage not good. He was a league worst -24 through those 34 games. But I wanted to highlight too, now while this is not like amazing or anything, his last 22 games, this is after we've kind of seen like, okay, Kirby Dach kind of step back, like, okay, he's stepping back up. We're seeing him play a bit better. He's passing the eye test more and more. 13 points in his last 22 games. Only still a -5. His shooting percentage is much higher, but those goals he got were not like crazy lucky goals, maybe 1 or 2. But this is closer. This is a 48-point pace. Again, we'd like to see Kirby Dach in an ideal world get up to like that 65-point pace if you want him to be that 2C, and especially to get his wingers playing more, Jesse. But I think this is really a tale of two halves of the season for Kirby Dach, and I actually fully believe in him to be able to bounce back after the All-Star break because, again, we're seeing him get better before our eyes. Coming off a major knee injury is never, ever easy. A lot of players have some of their worst seasons coming off a major injury, and it's no surprise that Kirby Dach's start to the season was not good either, but I actually think it's very encouraging, even though these numbers don't jump off the screen at you and grab you and say, whoa, this is amazing. 22-game sample size with some really good mini stretches within that, I think gives me more hope than some fans might have.
That's true. And when we're looking at the numbers, you would maybe project that there would be an uptick as the season goes on, as he's kind of healing, as we've seen from other players, coming from this as well. So the fact that he is having a rest right now, the Four Nations break, this is going to help Kirby Dach quite a bit right now. He just needed a little bit more of that rest. So now this end of the season, though, it's still going to be very big. And now Kirby Dach, He knows it too. He knows how important he really is for this team. And the Montreal Canadiens, while they're wise to kind of give him some time, and yeah, it's probably fair to say he's still got another year after that they might give him until the end of that to kind of really make a judgment call. It's really, he's on the clock right now, but we really want him to work out because there's at times where he looks like our best player. Like he's just like, I'm just like, so impressed by how we can really control the puck in the offensive zone. He's the type of guy, he has that elite skill. You can see why he's picked third overall. Everything just slows down for him in the offense. He doesn't speed up his game to kind of be in competition with others. The game just slows down around him. So this is showing Kirby Dach has that elite potential. If he can really do that, get in that offensive zone and be that catalyst that he needs to be, and maybe being a little bit more selfish. I think on that second power play unit, he needs to be that go-to guy coming out of that break. Shoot that puck, Kirby, because we all believe in you here in Montreal.
Absolutely. Like, I'd love to see him succeed. That's all I ever want for our players, right? And Kirby's done, like, nothing really wrong. I just want to see him work out right now on the team. And, again, like, if the complaint is, like they were saying on the show, or maybe that it could be, like, again, this is not coming from Habs management, but this is what the guys were saying on the podcast. Like, look, get your wingers to produce a bit more. We've seen Newhook's numbers have not been amazing this year, and Line A, at least 5v5 with Dach, have not been good either. So if you're a centerman and you got like two talented guys on your wing, you ideally want them to drive more scoring. And again, that does come down to the center a lot. So I don't know. This is a bit crazy. Let us know what you guys think down below, because we ran over time on this video, but it's a crazy, crazy thing to come out today. So let us know your thoughts. Go check out the original source. By the way, the Stanley 25 podcast is a great thing to listen to if you listen in French as well. So shout them out as well. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.